light, rattling the window panes and drumming against the roof. 10-year-old Ritu watched the gray clouds from her living room, her heart sinking. She knew the local park, her favorite place to play, was catching the worst of it. Grandma Amita came to stand behind her, resting a warm hand on her shoulder. "The rain is loud, Ritu, but it will pass," she said softly. "It's what we do when the sun comes back that defines the day." When the clouds finally parted the next morning, the park wasn't the green paradise Ritu remembered. It was a disaster zone. The heavy rains had washed trash from the streets into the fields, and the wind had tossed branches everywhere. Soggy cardboard and plastic bottles clung to the base of the slide. Ritu and Amita stood at the park gate, each clutching a stack of empty burlap sacks. The task looked impossible. Ritu looked at the acres of messy grass and sighed. "Grandma, we're just 2 people. This would take a whole army to fix. Why are we even trying?" Amita didn't look discouraged. She took Ritu's hand and squeezed it. "A mountain isn't moved in one giant leap, little bird. It's moved one stone at a time. We don't need an army yet. We just need to take the first step." Ritu took a deep breath and stepped onto the wet grass. She spotted something half buried in the mud near the swings. It was a small, forgotten teddy bear, matted and cold. She gently picked it up, shook off the grit, and placed it safely at the top of her sack. "That's 1, she whispered. Then she found a crushed soda can. "That's 2. Slowly, the overwhelming mess began to turn into a list of small wins. While Ritu focused on the small items, Amita took on the heavy lifting. She moved through the park with steady grace, gathering the fallen oak branches that blocked the walking paths. She dragged them to the edge of the woods, creating a neat stack. "See?" Amita called out, wiping her brow. "The path is already starting to remember where it belongs." High above the park, Mr. Finch watched from his balcony. He was known for being the neighborhood's grumpiest resident, usually spending his time shouting at children to stay off the flower beds. But as he watched the young girl and the elderly woman working tirelessly in the mud, his scowl began to soften. He set down his morning tea and looked at the long-handled rake leaning against his wall. A few minutes later, the gate creaked open. Mr. Finch walked onto the grass, his heavy-duty rake over his shoulder. "You're missing the leaves in the drainage gutter," he grunted, though his eyes were kind. Ritu looked up and beamed. Together they worked on the main walkway, Mr. Finch raking the heavy piles of wet leaves while Ritu gathered the stray bits of plastic he uncovered. The sight of the 3 of them inspired others. Doors began to open all along the street. Little Arjun came running over with his bright yellow sand bucket, eager to find hidden treasures. Amita knelt down and showed him how to spot the tiny, colorful microplastics hidden among the flower beds. Soon, the park was no longer silent. It was filled with the sounds of shuffling feet and cheerful chatter. By the time the sun was high in the sky, the burlap sacks were bulging, and the piles of branches were high. The park didn't just look clean, it looked loved. Ritu and Amita finally sat down on a freshly wiped wooden bench. Their clothes were damp, and their boots were caked in mud. But as they looked at the groups of neighbors still working together, Ritu felt a glow in her chest that was warmer than the sun. Ritu realized then that she hadn't needed to fix the whole park by herself. She only needed to start. Her small steps had created a path for everyone else to follow. Looking out at the sparkling playground and the clear paths, she realized that no task was ever too big if you were willing to take the first step. "Every step counts, Grandma," she said. Amita nodded. "And every heart follows."